a baseline report on the state of racial disparities in Dane County. I've talked to several people since reading that report, and I've read it in and out. But I kept record of this one particular debate, I'll call it. It felt like an interview, but a debate that I had with a young man about the report. The first thing that he said to me was, please just openly share with me what your first honest thoughts were after you read that report. I said, well, for me, my people, since slavery, I feel like we've been living this report our entire lives, all around the globe. And so Madison may be shocked, and Madison didn't know, but Madison wears so many smiles. And sometimes underneath that there's also a disguise, but when you take off the disguise, I said to him, racism and classism still looks like racism and classism, still looks like racism and classism, and the facts and the statistics don't lie. They didn't lie in my mama's time. They didn't lie in her mama's time. They don't lie in my time or in my children's time. So something has got to change. That was my immediate thought after reading it. And then he said, I understand where you're coming from, but do you think that it was right for you to compare it to slavery? What's happening today in Madison with your people? Do you think that's accurate? He said. I looked at him and I said, accurate? Accurate? Read the new Jim Crow. There is right now a new Jim Crow. Different tactics, but the same goal. Still makes me feel the same as when my grandmother's grandmother said, they pistol whipped my brothers. Mississippi watered my sons in the scorching heat, broad daylight. They raided my daughters one by one by one. Black husbands hung low by everyday white cake law. Tiny towns were gutted bright and the tar ate the flesh till the flesh fell raw. Dogs were barking, biting wild. Club Billy hit me hard. Nightfall coming looking like the daylight as that crucifix burned in my front yard. Those crucifixes are still burning in our front yards. It's lighting up this whole report. It still makes me feel like I am invisible. It still makes me feel unwanted. I am still being isolated and marginalized. The question at the end of the report for me in my spirit, the essence of it is still, why are you here in my city? It is in the segregation. It is in the backwards classrooms. It is in the talk sometimes in the university, the backwards power struggle. It is in the invisibility of us. It is always buried underneath this idea of liberalism by folks that so often ain't never had to be liberated from nothing because they always been free. Tell them. So that's why I think to speak about that time is accurate. Is accurate. And then he said to me, I understand. I said, no, you don't, because if you understood, you would not have even asked me that question. Then he went on, he said, I feel your pain. I said, if you feel my pain, then you understand what I went through when I read this. 469 juvenile arrests per 1,000, 77 white, 469 black. Children living in poverty, 5% white, 75% black. Third graders not proficient at reading, 48% black, 11% white. Population in poverty, 54% black, 9% white. 295 adult arrests per 1,000, 36 white. Do you understand? Is that accurate enough for you? Is it? And then he broke away from that space and he said, but understand, Rain, there are so many different reasons for this report. There is so much going on. There are still facts being gathered. And I said, no. Oppression is oppression. It's wrong and it's been wrong. It's broke and it's been broke. And as long as we act in surprise and shocked, we look ridiculous. We look foolish. We look unintelligent in a city that favors higher education. We cannot continue to do that. We cannot continue to be surprised. Because see, education and knowledge don't always go hand in hand, but we need to get that thing together. And he said to me, the state of blacks in Madison, Rain, is changing. You just don't see it. He said, we are working to improve the relationships. We are reaching for more diversity at the university level. We are reaching for more diversity in the arts. We are really fighting. And I said, really? Because what I'm thinking is that we need to reach faster and deeper then. Because the Madison that I have experienced in the 1 year that I have lived here is that we are living locked up and locked down. We are in pockets that have holes in them. We are in school systems that are failing us and ridiculing us and dumbing us down, and we are still racing to find equity. And there's still trouble finding anything with equality with our names on it. That's what I see in the Black Madison, but we can continue to talk, brother. And he said, you are, I had to write this down, you are full of a fire that I don't often see. I get that all the time. You are full of a fire I don't often see. And I told him, I said, you know, after only being here for 2 weeks, people talk to me about how nice this place was. So nice for me, I broke it down. I said, nice. In ice. Nice. So imagine that you are dropped into a deep pool of water and ice forms around you. And you cannot push out the top and you cannot push out the sides, and all of a sudden you cannot breathe. You are stuck in ice. That's what nice has gotten us here in Madison. So it's time to stop being nice, because nice is used as a brick to build the house that covers the truth. And that house is not easily torn down. Nice. Nice. And see, I said, we are too busy calling this kind of fire angry. We are too busy saying that it's black uncontrollable rage. We are too busy calling it reverse racism. Reverse racism, really, is that a thing? We are so busy with all of that nonsense that we don't see when we are part of the problem. And so we forget that there is all of this elephant in the room, big elephant in the room. We forget that there is all of this privilege and this elitism and this superiority that is pressing against us. And we are bringing a knife to a gunfight. So I told him, let's not just talk about getting along, because he said, wait a minute, we don't really see color. I don't know where you're coming from. We don't see color in this town. It's about multiculturalism. Multiculturalism. And we don't see color in this town. That gets us into a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble, because remember, inclusion is the word that was the buzzword because somebody did not want to not be included. So I told him that the anger and the rage is necessary. And he said to me, well, whenever you think like this, you won't go anywhere. You cannot get anywhere, Rain. Your people cannot get anywhere. And I said, really? And he said, yes, because progressiveness is what we are. And I said, progressive can morph into quiet elitism if you don't put it in check. Okay, we start there then, Rain. We're just a bunch of angry people. Angry, angry people. And then what does that do? I said, anger has the power to take the lead out of the first step so that we can begin to go someplace. Because see, without it, we are missing that spark that sometimes alerts us that there is something devastatingly wrong. So we need it. We need people like you to come into spaces like this to make change, to give money to an entity like the Urban League to move forward on change, because you first got angry and said something is wrong. I am standing on a burial ground and something is wrong, and I'm angry enough to buy a ticket, to sit in a place, to give more money, to love, and to give light into a space and a place that is ready to fight on the front lines, the Urban League. So that's why we're here. Something had to have made us angry. And And so at this point, he was tired of me. And so he began to back out towards the door. And he said, you know what, Rain? Any last comments? Any last things you want to say? And I said, well, I want to address the fact that you asked me about how does the change happen. First of all, we don't make the change happen. Each one of us have to become the change that we want to see. And that's not just a cliche phrase. We really have to become the change that we want to see. And then the oppressor has to stop looking to the oppressed for all of the solutions. You lock the cage on the door, you